Happy Thursday, everybody.
Yes. Happy
Happy th-
Thursday.
Welcome to episode 42. It's
And
hard to believe we've been doing this almost a year, Nick.
what did we start in March of last year?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
10 more
Yes.
episodes. It'll be a full week, a year of episodes. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're it has been quite a journey. Let's for sure. So I'm glad Deshaun kind of helped kick us off. I'll never forget that where he's just like we had that meeting with him and he's like, how about Thursday at 1 p.m. All right, I'm gonna schedule a meeting for you and you're gonna do it. All right. So
Yeah.
great Genesis.
Well, you say kickstart, I say kick in the butt because we were
Yeah.
totally unprepared, and hell, judging by this episode, I don't know that we still are.
I'd like to think we learned a few things in the meantime, but yeah, I don't know what happened today. So on a side note, you saw the intro, the first intro. So we both saw the intro, and then StreamYard kind of died on us. So
Yep.
anyway, yeah. So how's the weather in your neck of the woods? It's probably cold, like
It's-
mine still.
It is so cold. We had temperatures of -15
Like
this
the
weekend. Actual negative
Yes,
15,
Yeah.
wind chill and real feel was like -22 or something like that.
Mm.
We still got snow on the ground, which snow usually doesn't last too long here, but it's not going away.
Yeah.
I imagine pretty much the same for
Yeah.
you, yeah?
Yeah, not quite as cold. I think the lowest we've seen was like -7 actual, but like -15 or 16 feels like type of thing. Still got the
Right?
snow, but then I was starting to see pictures of like in Florida, like you know all these really southern states are just getting like 8 or 10 inches of snow, which is I don't think ever happened before. So very very interesting for everybody. I think this time of year. So
Yeah, Florida got snow. I imagine there's people in Florida and Georgia that have never seen snow.
yes, well,
That
and
are
it's
seeing
not
it for
only
the
just
first
like
time.
snow, it's like like a significant amount of snow. Like
Yeah.
like the beaches are covered in snow. It's just strange. But
Yep.
anyway, all right. So what are we going to talk about today? Right?
Tanzu platform. So
Yeah.
we talk about Tanzu platform. We have a new release that just came out, which was Tanzu platform 10.
Mhm.
And what we're going to be, part of Tanzu platform is going to include Tanzu platform for Cloud Foundry, as well as Tanzu platform for Kubernetes. But what we're going to be concentrating on is some of the new features. The new features that we're bringing out in Tanzu Platform 10. Now we can break these down into like 5, and I had started this before everything died on us, but we
Mhm.
could break down kind of our major themes that we're going to be talking about into 5 major themes. So the first one near and dear to your heart, which is going to be generative AI. So we've got some exciting things to talk about on generative AI. We've got platform observability, uh,
Mhm.
secure and efficient platform, developer experience, and ecosystem updates. So, you know, I love your slides, but I think we talk about these a little bit out of order
Okay.
than what you got in your slides. I think you kick us off with generative AI, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so do we want to do slides or how do we want to do this? Let me
I like the slides. I think it'll hold everything
Okay.
in. We'll just add our commentary as we go through.
All right. So yeah, let me let's see here.
Oh,
I
I threw
think
you for a loop, didn't I? Because now
well,
you get to the
so
slides.
we did this presentation over 2 parts in one of our internal, we call them Tanzu Lives. So I have to jump around here. I was lined up for part 2, but I can go back to part 1. You got me. You
I
got
did.
me.
See, that's how I keep it interesting. If it's
Yeah.
not StreamYard doing stuff to us, then I'm going to throw you for a loop.
All right. Yeah. So we'll go to the generative AI zoom in, right? And I know we've talked about this, this topic a lot on this channel. We've had Long on here, we've had Adib, we've had David Wu. Like episode 2 was Long and Amelia, and kind of talked about that whole hackathon thing back from now 2023, which seems like wow, it's been a while already with this generative
Yep.
AI thing, right? But we'll skip past this slide, right? But the big thing about Tanzu Platform 10 and the generative AI piece is that Gen AI and Tanzu Platform, the tile that we've been talking about over multiple episodes, it went officially GA. So a GA support for Bosch deployed models via Llama or VLM. You have VMware Private AI integration support. We have integrations with some of the third-party models as well, so like Azure, Google, Bedrock. even the proper Sam Altman's open AI as well. So you can either deploy via Bosch your own private open source models, or talk to all these third party models via that kind of marketplace experience. There's a lot of new things happening too within kind of this is where we kind of hinted a little bit earlier about the AI server as well, componentry and like some of the middleware constructs that are getting built. So that's also GA within the Gen AI tile 10.0 release. We actually released 10.0.1 a few days ago, just some bug fixes and things. So continue to make progress, and actually just got off a call from the Tanzu Vanguards, where we were kind of, if you haven't heard of the Tanzu Vanguard program, you should check it out. Kind of get access to the community of customers and partners that are within the Tanzu ecosystem, and kind of get some kind of like I say, special access to product managers and things of that nature. But I just got off one of those where we're kind of doing a deep dive with Adib and John about the kind of overall Tanzu AI solutions, and even hinting at some future things that I probably shouldn't say here because this is publicly, and we're not ready to announce some of those things, but some even newer integrations too on this path.
Right.
And then just that marketplace experience of give me model and bind it to my application. So that was one of a very major kind of version of that. I don't think we have time to do demos and things. We have multiple past episodes where we kind of do some demos, and I think even maybe next week I'm gonna do maybe more of a deep dive guide of like how to deploy like specific demo applications with the tile, because internally we're getting a lot of questions of like, how do I do this or how do I do that type of thing, and because a lot of people are trying this out. Gen AI is exciting, lots of people want to try it out, so I'm going to try to make some more kind of deep dive guide on that, and go from there. All right,
Well,
what else? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the important starts that comes to this. So why does this matter, right? So one of the things you left out, we talked about on earlier shows, but want to go ahead and say it again. The ability to run your LLMs on CPU versus GPU, right? So
Right.
this is going to let customers do that try before you buy, do some, innovation and do some prototyping before they go and have to commit to expensive GPUs. Of course, you're not going to have as much performance as you're going to have, but with GPUs, but at least you got the ability to try this and show your management that it's going to work. We're going to allow you to run offline, so you can run air gapped.
Yep.
Right. And that's important. And we're bringing LLMs private. So everybody knows there's been a lot of stuff in the news, the possibility for leaks, the possibility for hallucinations. This brings you the ability to bring your data in private to help train your, use the LLMs that you've trained on your data, but not to go out and have to use that private data, potentially, risking exposing some of your information out to the public cloud. I mean, this is all great stuff, right? Couple this with Spring AI and the ability to use Spring AI without changing your code. This is very powerful because you could try multiple LLMs. Every LLM, this better than I do, Nick, and you can probably speak on this. But every LLM is going to have different capabilities that they're better at. So which one's going to be with your code? So using Spring AI, have the LLMs on your platform and be able to switch through them and see which one works better for your application.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, like the different models will all behave differently, and like even just in the model, let's call it the model race, right? Every week or so, there's another kind of big announcement from different players. We just recently had the like DeepSeek reasoning model, like so we're starting to see some of the new reasoning models come out of like I think the OpenAI, they release theirs kind of first, but then we've had like the open source side kind of fast follow with different reasoning models, and DeepSeek was probably the most recently one. I think it's called DeepSeek R1. So the model race is very hot and heavy. There's all these different models you can try. Some work obviously are like geared towards embedding or like vision models or just inference models. There's like tools and function calls. So a lot of different things. And then even to this new thing we may hear about the concept of agentic AI or agents. And I guess this is going to be the year of agentic AI and agent building, where we're starting to see things with Spring AI and the MCP or model context protocol, where very cool things are getting built already. And I don't even have, I would like to show some of those demo apps here maybe later when we get some of the things. But internally, we've seen different people build MCP clients essentially to uh, have applications that can use the Gen AI tile as act as kind of agency. So like there's a demo, like it's like uh, a Java app that can get, like we'll call the LLM and then it will like parse like a database, and like the database in this demo is like SQLite, and it's got like a bunch of like item and product demos. We can say like ask the model like what are what's the average price uh per unit, or what's the average price per item in my store or in my in my database, and I'll go look at like it'll be a combination of the MCP client or app and talking to the LLM, and then like parsing the actual like data store and giving you a result of like, well, the average price is like $1.50 or something like that, or list the top 10 items. Like you start to get like very kind of um very interesting applications, and then like different there's different kind of chat clients to interface with different things. So there might be, let's say you could build an MCP or agentic agent for like Cloud Foundry itself and be like, show me utilizing these LLMs of the back end, show me like the top show me all apps that have crashed or in crashing status, stuck in crashing status, or apps that are over 2 gig in size, the type of thing. So
Yep.
there's a lot of cool stuff cooking. This I think if anything, the gas pedal has just got pushed down further, and it just like this stuff's taken off even faster than before. So
Well, and a couple of themes on that, right? So, you mentioned you could build in an agent to go in and use Cloud Foundry. We talked to Chris Phillipson, who was looking at, CF Butler, and I can't remember the name of the tool that
Sanford.
he
Sanford. Mm-hmm.
Sanford, yes. He
Yeah.
was, thinking about trying to pull in Sanford to do some of that stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
we've got Corby Page, who's a good friend of the show. He's working on some really cool stuff that I think, when he's ready, we should bring that on and show
Mm-hmm.
it, but using AI to help, not only manage, but inform on the platform. And then, we keep bringing up Spring AI. Why is Spring AI important, and how does that mesh with this? Well, not everybody's a Python expert, right? Not everybody can really get in there and do Python. So, Spring AI is allowing you to use the generative AI and the LLMs that we're bringing into the platform. Developers can use what they know. They're already good with their Spring code. So this is allowing Spring developers to get started in AI very quickly, kind of stay with a framework that they're familiar with. But we all know that AI apps are out there, and you need to start looking at them. So that's where the kind of purpose of Spring AI is coming. And I know you've done some Spring AI. We've got the Taylor Swift Spring
Mm-hmm.
Music app that we've showed out there. Are you doing anything new in the Spring
Yes.
realm?
So I, there's a lot of folks in the spring realm focusing on this new MCP kind of construct within the AI space. So I'm hopefully we can get some new spring demos with that, and then kind of go from there. So I don't have anything quite ready yet. I was testing something last night and this morning, but ran into like I need to do some kind of certificate thing on the actual app. So
Certificates.
yes, yeah. Well,
Yep.
it's and then it's like moving so fast. It's like, all right, well, this is great. We're like, oh, now we got to like write something, like write apps to actually use this. And like,
Yep.
you can, like Corby's demo is pretty sweet. I guess, too, on the Sanford, Chris, like we've been working with a customer, and they're actually using Sanford to like, do some pretty interesting things. So that's kind of cool to see, some of the Chris's work kind of already get picked up,
Yeah.
by a customer using the Gen AI tile as well. So
That's awesome.
the
Art of the
lots of
possible.
lots of exciting things in this topic.
All right.
I guess we should probably move on though, because if you let me keep talking about this, it's going to be like 2 hours down the road. And we're not going to cover anything else.
Well, you are excited about AI. All right. So
Yeah.
the next theme, observability.
Yes.
Platform and observability. So, one of the bigger features coming out, which, this is something that I think everybody that's ever used Cloud Foundry, and especially Taz and now Tanzu Platform for CF, has been asking for, is, being able to look multi-site or multi-foundation, be able to look across your sites, get information on all your foundations in one place. And we're bringing that in with Hub.
Yes. Yeah. And we had Jacob Newton on as a while ago, as I guess a while ago, it was last year. But like he's kind of, the one of the lead folks working in this space. But we kind of did a brief hub demo. I don't think I have anything hub ready to show today, but we have a few slides. But we're talking about that multi-foundation visibility within Tanzu platforms. You can register, all your Cloud Foundry foundations there and start to get some of the Health Watch style views and things from there. Let's
Yeah, so
see.
people that have used like, Health Watch, being able to see Health Watch across your foundations, not having to jump between, screens to look at every foundation, but being able to see everything in one aggregate view. This is going to help people kind of spot problems across their platform. And when I say platform, I mean all of their sites in one place. Get alerts on things like capacity or vulnerabilities in one place. See what kind of apps are running and what kind of vulnerabilities, especially when we start looking again, going back to Spring, being able to
Mhm.
see what your Spring libraries look like, how they're lining up with both compliance and security. I mean, this is going to save or I won't even say not developers, but platform engineers a lot of time just being able to kind of ditch, looking at those multiple screens and seeing everything on one place. Same thing with your security folks and your developers, being able to get everybody on a single page and talking about the foundations from one source of information. That's huge. I mean,
Mhm.
do you wish you would have had this when you were running? I
Oh,
know I
yeah,
do.
yeah, for sure. Like having that single pane and having having like all those foundations kind of in a single source.
Yep.
Definitely excited about. And then also like it also is you're starting to get like the platform logging as well. So like yeah, um, you may have other sources as well, but having another pane or another example, or try to get your app and platform logs in a singular place as well, without having to go to a third party. I think it's pretty nice. We logging was always like we had like the main enterprise logging stack, and then as platform engineers, we had to like kind of maintain our own because like we couldn't send everything there. There's a lot of different like streams and issues there. So at least having this is another tool in your toolbox, so to speak, is going to I think be very beneficial. And can't it's just critical type of stuff that you can get access to, or when things start breaking, the more tools you have in your toolbox to fix the leaks, or the broken thing, the faster is better, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And that's a good segue because part of that logging, the application logs, platform logs in one place, open telemetry is being implemented across the board.
Mhm, mhm,
And we had Matthew Kocher and Carson Long on to start talking about what the plan was for shared nothing. But
mhm.
shared nothing's getting full featured in TP10, Tanzu Platform 10, right?
Yeah. So
And
even. Mhm.
yep.
Including that open telemetry collector too. So if you do have, the things that can speak open telemetry, you can start pulling out like logs and metrics via the OTel like collector receiver construct as well. So that may help out a lot with um you know different third party like kind of observability platforms, let's just call them. And I think even like there's another kind of internal call that they were on where they were mentioning too, like even with the OTel stuff, and I that's something I haven't looked into as much. But you can even potentially like filter out logs or
Mhm.
send to multiple places with the OTel I guess collector. So you can start to get some very kind of advanced kind of log processing as well, because that's getting delegated down to the Diego cells, so it's happening before before it's getting blasted out, via the what used to be the fire hose type of thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of possibilities with I think some very good kind of resource reclamation, so to speak, and resource kind of control
Yeah, it's
with
going to
some of
cut
these hub
down
features.
it's going to lower footprint, right? But
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
we're cutting out a bunch of those hops with shared nothing
Hmm.
so that, everything's being processed once at the Diego cell before it gets sent out. And, Carson and Matt did talk about the ability to filter and even do some transformation on the logs before they go out. So if you're using something like Splunk or Datadog, being able to pick and choose what you're going to send there, especially, with the cost associated, that's huge. But we're no longer going to have that limitation that we used to see with the Dopplers and so forth. that's getting moved out to the Diego. It's almost like
Hmm.
automatic scaling. As you add
Yep.
Diegos, you get more logging capacity. So, this is
Exactly.
going to be huge because everybody's looking to lower the footprint, lower costs. So
Hmm.
shared nothing's going to be a huge part of that. And, it kind of, I guess the one change is, you got to be on the lookout for anything that still uses the fire hose. You need to get that migrated over to open telemetry and get it off the fire hose. But I know a lot of our partners are really making great strides in that. We're making great strides on the internal side. So this is
Hmm.
going to be huge. And, all of this leads into, again, being able to get all of that information in one place. We're also bringing out this concept of troubleshooting run books, accelerated troubleshooting. So kind of getting some guides that are built into Hub so that when you see a problem, you know what the problem is. We've seen this before. Here's kind of a guide to go through and help us fix that. So problem resolution is going to be a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to see. We had a slide for that. There we go. Red
Yep.
books. We're just trying to get to there. So yeah, I mean, even yeah. So I think we could spend a long time too, and we probably have a later slide for the shared nothing bits, but uh, definitely this is something to check out. I think even too, like Matthew said in that internal call last week, that
Mhm.
the Splunk collector was like kind of baked in as well.
Yep.
So potentially you don't even, if you go move to this within the Tanzu with tPCF 10 or that 10 release, you could potentially, and we need to confirm this, but like move to I think the OTel version, and you wouldn't have to necessarily even use the Splunk tile per se,
Right.
but um, so there's just some cool stuff happening there as well. All
So
right, what
reduced
else?
VMs, 10 to 15% reduction in VMs, potential for
Mm-hmm.
reducing the number of tiles,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
this is going to replace some of the internal tiles that we used to use. So reducing tiles reduces upgrade time, reducing infrastructure reduces cost and upgrade time. So what's coming with Hub, I think, is probably one of the biggest feature sets that we've seen in Cloud Foundry, at least on the commercial side, in a very, very long time. A lot of people are interested in this, and if this is something that the audience is interested in, reach out and make sure
Mm-hmm.
we can hook you up with Jacob and other people on the Hub team, and get some demos out there. Get people seeing what they can do with this. This is going to be huge.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. All right, so next, how about we move into, so we've done a lot of that. So like there's the multi-foundation observability, all that fun stuff. We have Gen AI that's happening. So there's a kind of two big categories, but like the third category we had, I can find this slide. My Google slides are like lagging a lot, so that's fun. Hopefully that's not a precursor to
General internet problems today.
yes, yeah. So we're gonna dive into secure efficient platform. I'm going to start at slide 10 here. So let's see here, slideshow mode. So some core things happening. I guess this is more of a Bosch ops main type of thing, but
Right.
certs, making certs better, making that internal certificate rotation process and upgrade process a
Woo.
little bit better every time is always good, right?
Yep. Certs are the bane of my existence. And I
Yes.
know a lot of people feel the same way. We've been making great strides on this on the commercial side with a lot of the
Hmm.
rotation stuff that we're doing. There's automatic rotations for Bosch DNS in there now. We're simplifying the sample cert. There's still more
Hmm.
work going on. I think the core thing here side, we're working very hard to ease what we think is probably one of the biggest pain points when it comes to platform engineers. And you're right, this is something that doesn't make a lot of difference to the developers, but for the platform engineers, this is a huge time sink for them managing certs. So, stay tuned. I think you're going to see a lot more interesting stuff come from the cert rotation side. And,
Yeah.
and definitely, the same thing on the CPE releases, CPI releases.
Hmm.
So, that pre-compilation, uh, we used to sit there and watch that screen for quite a while, waiting for the pre-comp to get done. So now the Ruby is all pre-compiled, so we don't have to watch for that. So you're going to see a reduction in your applied changes because now that's just going to be pre-compiled and ready
Yeah. Always good stuff. And if you don't know what this is, that's okay. But if you do know what this is, this will be a big deal. So
for you. That's right.
yeah,
So
exactly.
all the developers are watching that are saying, I don't care about any of this. Well, but the guys that run your platform absolutely do. And this,
Mhm.
all of this means quicker upgrades for you guys, less hassle. Very good stuff.
All right, what's next? So I guess a key thing really to point out when we're going from TAS 6.0 to tPCF 10, right? Um, that CF Linux FS3 stack, right? So this is more of an informational, I guess, just general warning. So if you're still using the FS3 stack, uh, it's going to warn you when you try to do an apply changes. It's going to say, hey, sorry. And I saw this in one of my labs where I still had some FS3 apps. When I tried to upgrade to 10, I didn't complete that FS4 migration beforehand. It gave me a warning. I was angry. It stopped the deploy. I had to go kind of remediate those stacks. So this is just a call out that this is a FS file system change requirement on this in this upgrade path. So definitely
Yep.
something to, you know,
We,
you know.
we've been putting the information out there. We've been warning everybody for a long time.
Mhm,
One of the things that we've done in the recent upgrades is we have kind of slow walked the CF Linux SF upgrade
mhm,
procedure,
mhm,
right? So, you know, TP10, so Tanzu Platform 10, let's all remember, we made the change to Tanzu Platform 10 to get all of our stuff aligned under a common name, but this was
mhm,
going to be, you know, uh, TAS version 7.0, which was going to be the version where, FS3 died. And that's what we're seeing here. So,
yeah,
this does make things a lot easier so that we are going to see this prevent the upgrade, for the platform engineers before time. There's tools out there to go in and check if you still got apps on your platform that are running FS3. But just know that, this is going to be a prerequisite. And I think this is a good change in that, you get very succinct information as to why this is failing, and it gives you something to go out and look for, rather
mm,
than some of those previous ominous messages that you couldn't quite figure out. So this should
yeah,
help people with their upgrades.
for sure. All right.
Speaking of upgrades and deployments, oh, never
Yes.
mind, never
Oh
mind.
no, we can go back. What you got?
I
We're
was going to
back.
say we've made well. I'm no, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting in developer experience.
Okay. Okay.
I
All right.
I'm,
Well,
I'm so excited, Nick. There's so much stuff going on that I'm jumping all over the place. Keep me in line.
yeah. All right. Yeah. So Go routers are friends in the routing space.
Yep.
So you can route you can have have Go routers in isolation segments route to other Diego cells in other isolation segments. I guess is the way to say this. I was struggling to try to remember what this was, but essentially now you can kind of instead of and my knowledge of when you enabled isolation segments, right? You can either say like you use my top level platform Go routers, which would like the shared Go router across everything in like the core Diego, and then whatever subsequent Diego's deployments you have in different isolation segments. But this is allowing you to or like have one Go router for each ISO seg type of thing. I think this is allowing you to kind of mix and match and have different network topologies as well. So um,
Well, I
just
mean, when you looked at it like ISO-segs, you usually had those for two reasons. We wanted to
mhm,
do a complete, different load balancer, different network coming in for applications, or you had
mhm,
applications that were special, right? They required a lot of memory.
mhm,
Maybe they required special hardware, and you'd set up an isolation segment for those.
mhm.
Uh, but part of that is when you set up that isolation segment, they were isolated.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean that those apps that you deployed in there didn't need to talk to other applications within your foundation. So this is
Mhm.
kind of resolving that so that if you do have to create ISO segments, you don't have to create and deploy apps in there multiple times, right?
Right.
So
Right.
if I want to deploy an app that needed to talk to another app, but one of the apps was special, I had to deploy both apps in that isolation segment. Now I don't have to do that. I don't have to, take up that additional infrastructure to do that deployment. Now I can get that and they can route to each other. So very good for, kind of reducing the complexity of foundations and your deployment and
Mhm.
your architecture. But it's
Mhm.
also going to be a cost savings because you're not, sometimes needlessly taking up infrastructure just so that you can have apps talk to each other.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good use case to put behind that this feature. So that's a good explanation. Okay. What else we got? We're down to the developer experience. So we kind of covered secure, efficient platform. Now I go to DevX. Let's see. Canary deployments. Let's see. Like,
All kinds of
all
enhanced deployments,
yes,
right?
yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, canary deployments is something that you may have been able to do, but usually using some kind of external CI/CD mechanism, or essentially something like that. But now within the CFCLI, you can kind of do that same flow, and this is kind of a step by step flow with user interaction in that process, or kind of user validation, right? Because like the whole concept of Canary is like deploy a new version of your app, just move some traffic over there, and then basically, going back to the whole canary in the coal mine thing, does the new version of the app live or die, right? And if it dies,
Right.
then rip it out, right? That type of thing. So, having that mechanism within the CFCLI, just another great tool in the toolbox for developers to, kind of help improve that overall flow. I think
Well, and if
yeah.
you remember, I mean, you used to have to do this, like you said, either through some pipeline constructs or there
Hmm.
were some CF plugins that you could use.
Hmm.
So now this is a native part of the platform. So there is, when you're looking at your CF push, there is some new command lines coming out there. So the with this you get the dash dash strategy
Hmm.
tag that you can put on there, and that's going to allow you to do canarying or even what we're fixing to talk about next, which is the rolling deployments. But now you can specify the type of deployment strategy that you want to do
Hmm.
with that dash dash strategy with your CF push.
Right.
So bringing
And
all those plugins native.
yeah, yeah, that's, and then you don't necessarily have to do the full blue green approach either if you don't want to, because then you're kind of duplicating your application instances as well, so potentially and using unneeded resources there. Um, so yeah, it's all good things, and even within the rolling, so we rolling was there for a while, but I think one of the big kind of ticket items was that it was capped at rolling one instance at a time. But if you had, let's say, an app that had 500 app instances, right? You'll see you have like a really large like e-commerce front end per se.
Yep.
Uh, may or may not be speaking directly out of experience. You didn't want to necessarily roll that app that had 500 AIs per data center, right? Because then it was actually wired up behind multiple data centers across a GSOP. Rolling that, like, oh, we have identified said bug. We're trying to rolling restart this. One instance at a time is going to take a long time, and potentially too long of a time to potentially be in this in a maybe degraded state. But you kind of have that. Do we wait for that to happen, or do we just yank it all out and restart the full app and restart all 500 AIs at once, right?
Yep.
So having that in-flight parameter of, say, let's maybe rotate 10 or 25 AIs at a time versus all 500. I think that would would have been a very nice tool to have back then. But
Yep.
yeah, so that's kind of the concept behind this. So just good things for developers.
Yeah, and when you got into, when you try to use the first rolling strategy that we had, you're right, it was one app at a time. It worked very well for smaller instance apps, but when
Hmm.
you got in those big ones, not only did it take a long time to get through your deployment, but it also led to some unforeseen circumstances where you might have timeouts and apps start crashing because of the dependencies that they had. So being
Hmm.
able to use this
Hmm.
max in flight and be able to run through those a lot quicker, not only helps you get your app out there faster and get the new deployment done, but it does save the potential for some of those timeouts and other issues that we've been seeing. So again, this is dash dash strategy on your CF push, but max in flight, very nice. You can kind of time this out and do what's best for you. And again, bringing all that native into the CFCLI.
Yeah. And maybe not have to have that thrash of all the backend services when you restart that set app of 500 AIs at a time
That's
too.
right. Yep.
So
That's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on your cloud controllers and your Diegos when you're trying to start up that much. But
yeah.
this is just all of this stuff is designed to just give developers the ability to kind of scale their apps more efficiently, to deploy their apps more efficiently, and to be able to roll their changes out with confidence without having to
Hmm.
jump through a bunch of plug-in hoops or one-off pipelines to do things that you're not using every time. So very good method here. I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about this. And of course, Max in Flight, we're seeing Max in Flight kind of permeate throughout the foundation. We saw it in scaling, being able to scale up and down by a set limit instead of just one or two at a time. And with some of the auto scaling that we put out there, so Max in Flight is making its rounds through just about everything to allow that flexibility for developers and platform engineers alike.
Perfect. Let's see. What's next on our list, Nikki? Let's see. The app autoscaler. Man, a lot
Oh,
of
it's like I knew that was coming up.
yeah,
I
yeah,
actually didn't, but hell, that worked out
yeah, yeah.
nice.
So let's see. So we've done a lot of stuff within the app autoscaler within tPCF, and this is a view from the apps manager. But now we have this concept of a cooldown, right? Because you have a few releases ago, we added the max the min max of scaling sets within autoscaler, because it used to just do one at a time, up or down. But having that min max of like, hey, I want to scale. Like, I just got a large burst of traffic. I need to scale up by 5 instances and then scale down by 2, like that type of thing. So having the app scale faster for one is better, but then also uh, having a cooldown period where you can then, which is the newer feature here, where you can kind of have it back off and not evaluate the app for said portion of time, because maybe you have a large startup script within your app, or there's some other kind of dependency situation going on, or maybe it's just a large slower app type of thing. So that's something good to check out as well. So
Yeah, and since we're talking use cases, a really good use case for this is if somebody's using, say, RabbitMQ, and
mhm,
they've got queues. So we all know when you're starting to consume, the queues that are out there. If you start getting behind, it takes a long time. So that was the first effort of being able to do a max in flight and scale up by more than one. Hey, when we start seeing our queues get behind, we want to be able to scale up more than one instance. We want to be able to help start taking care of those consumers, get more consumers out there a lot faster so we can clear those queues. But at the same time, if we scale up, say, 5 instances and we're evaluating quickly, we can actually see a burst in scale that may not be necessary. So the cooldown
mhm,
time allows us a little bit of time to say, hey, I'm behind in my queues. Give me 5 more consumers. Let's see those kind of, what impact they have on the queue real quick. And then we'll evaluate a little bit slower so that we
mhm.
don't, see ourselves raise up to like 30 or 40 different scale up events when really we only needed 1 or 2. So good use case, in my opinion. If anybody's out there, how would you guys use this? I think this is a good feature to have. And
Mhm.
again, allowing more choice and flexibility in how you want to handle your apps. But, I would love to hear from users and people that are watching. How would you guys use this? Where can you see this being a big benefit to you guys?
On a complete side note, every time we talk about the auto scaling based on queue depth,
Yep.
I think back to like old days of like IBM MQ queues like out of control. Like something happened and like this queue is just like you're like logging and you're like, oh my gosh, like how long is it gonna take for these million messages to clear this
Yep.
queue? It's like, oh, that would have been so cool to have, type of thing.
Yep.
So just a complete side rant. So fun times. All right. What's next on our list? This is a slide that should have been in secure efficient platform, but lives in the developer experience. So fun times. But
Yep.
so we're talking about cloud controller efficiency. This thing called Puma. This is actually something that I think a kind of a joint venture from the OSS side, kind of rolling into
Yep.
our commercial offering. So and I know SAP has done a lot of work within scaling the or testing the boundaries of, let's say, the cloud controller with some of their extremely large deployments of Cloud Foundry in general. I think they've did a lot of work and kind of I guess maybe blaze the trail for some of this performance optimization with moving Cloud Controller to Puma workers. So essentially, basically, at a basic concept, you're talking about moving Cloud Controller to a multi-threaded process versus a single-threaded process. So before, within tPCF, you had to scale the Cloud Controllers out wide. They were 1 or 2 CPUs, but make it more. Adding more than that didn't really do a lot of effect, because the actual Cloud Controller process in the VM was a single-threaded process. So didn't really make a whole lot of sense to make super large Cloud Controller VMs. but scaling that out, you know, all across, 20 so cloud controllers, but now maybe you can kind of roll that back in and maybe have that maybe a more efficient, you know, use multiple vCPUs on a much smaller set of VMs and have just as good performance, if not more throughput on the overall cloud controller API. At least that's how I understand all the work that's been done here. But
Oh,
I don't
you nailed it, right? So the fact that it
know.
was single threaded, you couldn't do anything with those VMs. If you started seeing, your cloud controller start having some pressure, there's the only thing that you could do is do horizontal scaling,
Mhm.
because you couldn't, single threaded. It's only going to do what it's going to do. With Puma
Right.
coming in, now you can really beef up those VMs that are running for your cloud controllers and be able to do multi-threaded. Now, how does that really affect the users? Well, I mean, if you're running this on something like cloud, like public cloud, or even if you're running it on prem, all of those little VMs take up space, and
Mhm.
it's not efficient. So this is also one of those things that not only is it efficiency of the platform and help the platform run more quickly and efficiently, but it's also one of those cost saving things because one mid-tower VM may be able to do the work of 4 or 5 different small VMs at a lower price.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a more expensive VM, but when you take it in aggregate, okay, we're able to get rid of 5 or 6 of these smaller VMs and do it all with one medium-sized VM. I'm able to reduce my footprint, which means I'm reducing my costs, and I'm getting performance benefits out of it. I think this is another one of those things that kind of shows the work behind the scenes that may not be something that people see. It's not a fancy feature or give them
Mhm.
a new functionality, but it helps the platform run better. And the better run a platform is, the more efficient it is, both in cost and man hours. So one of those behind the feature, behind the glass features that people don't get a lot of. What's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't get a lot of fanfare, but it's
Mhm. Mhm.
hugely important to the foundation. So things that all of a sudden developers going to see the foundation working better. The platform engineers are going to have less to take care of. The less infrastructure, the quicker the upgrade times. I think we're starting to see a kind of underlying theme across all these other themes that we're seeing is
Mhm.
more efficiency, less upgrades, and making life easier on both developers and platform engineers.
Well, I mean, I guess to come full circle too, right? Because I remember something that put a lot of back pressure on my cloud controllers back in the day, and that was some of my fire hoses, right?
Mhm.
And then if we talk about reducing the fire hoses or going to shared nothing, and something that would like when the cloud controller has problems, you see it within the CF API. So you see potentially push failures,
Yep.
scale failures, things of that nature. So it's not necessarily like it's going to impact your production API, your production, traffic, but potentially if you need to get in and do management type of things,
Yep.
that's when you would see that, like at least from a developer flow, right? So yeah, really excited about this because we could really probably reduce the cloud controllers. You don't have fire hoses anymore. There's maybe not something that's constantly scraping the cloud controller CF APIs to pull data out of there as well. So a lot of great things going on here.
Yeah, and the less things that are hidden in cloud controller, the less logs you're getting from the platform. Um,
Yeah.
so, again, you're right. This is kind of full circle. So when
Yeah.
you make things more efficient, the less chatty the platform's going to be. And we do know that the platform is very chatty when it comes to logs.
Yep. All right. What's next on our list? Oh yes, the so I guess another just this is just a side commercial. This episode's sponsored by Spring, but so within the commercial side of Cloud Foundry within VMware Tanzu, you get access to the Spring Enterprise Repository, right? So you're getting access to like the latest and greatest Spring commercial releases, the extended commercial support, and then kind of one, I just side note that I've had is while working with a customer, they hooked this thing up to their Artifactory. We were actually working on something completely else, or actually we were actually working on some of the Gen AI things, but on like kind of a side thread. They're like, oh well, yeah, we have this. We're gonna hook this up to Artifactory. We're actually viewing the Artifactory logs because we were working through some integration issues with Hugging Face. We're just starting to see this like what is like what are I was kind of thinking like starting to get a little worried like what are all these logs happening in Artifactory? Well, it's because they had just recently hooked up this enterprise repository, and Artifactory was because of somebody can explain this better than I can, but essentially this virtual repo construct where now that it had access to the Broadcom repository, it was able to start pulling all these extended support bits into all these build pipelines essentially because they are still they just now had access to like, hey, there's all these CVEs that are just getting fixed now because we have these extended commercial support releases that go past the open source release of Spring. So it was just great to actually see that like in how easy it was to use this, and then two, how easy it is to just kind of have that propagate directly into your actual app code and like, hey, now you can patch all these these things that couldn't do before. So
Yep. Well,
it
and
was
the other thing about the repo, so you kind of touched on, extended support. So Spring is still OSS, but when you get
mhm,
on to, Tanzu platform, you get the commercial side of this, you get the extended repo, the enterprise
mhm,
repo, which
mhm,
means that we're going to support Spring longer than what the OSS versions are out there.
mhm,
But we're also putting in new features that go just into that repository as well. So, we talked to uh, Deshaun about class data sharing. That's a new feature that's coming into Spring. That's something that you got to have access to the Spring Enterprise repo to get into. And class data sharing is one of those things that helps your Spring apps, again, start up faster. It's going to be able to help it, better handling when there's slow starting applications. Overall, just a performance increase on your Spring, but Spring Enterprise Repository is going to be a prerequisite to get into that. And, again, Spring support. We all know that a lot of developers, when something works, they leave it alone, but you got to worry about your compliance aspect of that. Spring Enterprise Repo, that gives you extended support as long as you're on Tanzu Platform 10. So I think it's 18 months extra support. Don't quote me on that.
yeah. There's a on the Spring website. There's like a timeline guide that shows you the extended support windows. I guess I can
Yeah.
try to bring it up, but yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I'll throw the link into,
Hmm.
the projects and what the export timelines look like. And just, I guess the important thing is for the audience is when you look at what we put in there for the link for the Spring support times, just know that that extended commercial support is a part of, being on the enterprise repo, and you get access to the repo when you're on Tanzu Platform 10.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I wonder what else we have. Oh yeah, we kind of already hinted at all of this type of thing. Oh yes, ecosystem updates. So I think this is our last category. I know we're a little over time, but that's okay. I can go on if you can, Nikki, and kind of
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
yeah.
we had like a 10-15 minute, hiccup there at the front. So
We'll call it technical difficulties.
that's right.
Yeah. All right. So what's our first feature? All right. So yeah. So that's another thing. Um, we talk about Tanzu Hub. The Tanzu platform in general. So there is a tile offering as well happening. So there's multiple ways to install Tanzu platform, the hub situation. There's a CLI installer you can do like on top of TKGS or VKS. I think that the terminology there. But there's also a tile that can load in Ops Manager and will kind of do an assist for you as well. I think we're going to see a lot of new things happening in here and kind of streamlining that. But there's like options to have the Tanzu platform sit behind your Go routers and use some of that. So that's good to see. I think when Tanzu Platform 10 released this hub, this Tanzu Platform tile is in beta. So I think this is kind of like a beta version of the tile. We'll have subsequent releases of Tanzu Platform, and I'm sure we'll see revisions within that, and
Mhm.
see when that goes GA, so to speak. But
Nope.
definitely, I've actually been playing around with a little bit in my labs. I'm excited to see where this goes to just kind of simplify that experience, so you can have that, you know, you have you can use that, yeah, use Ops Manager and existing tooling without having to kind of rebuild some other things, type of thing. So
Yep.
like
And real
like to see
quick,
that.
I do want to call out an acronym now. tPSM stands for Tanzu Platform Self Managed.
Hmm.
So if you'll remember Hub, when we first started bringing that as beta, it was a SaaS offering. We're now offering this as a standalone so that you can deploy this within your data center. So
Yep.
tPSM, Tanzu Platform Self Managed, just for the audience that maybe didn't understand that.
Yeah, that's a good call. There's a lot of acronyms on these pages sometimes.
Yep.
Ah, and then we have a new tile. So we kind of talked about this. We've been having a conversation around CrowdStrike in the past few episodes with DMZ. But last week we did a into the DMZ with David Zenzi, and so we he was actually he's working directly with them. But we there's a brand new tile for the CF ecosystem via CrowdStrike. So that's great to see that happening, and their investment within the Tanzu ecosystem.
Yep.
We'll have to get them on a show. I know we've kind of said that a few times, but like to see. Well, we'll have to get a demo of this tile in action.
Yep, and that was, I'm gonna cut to our subscribe and hit the notification bell because we are planning on trying to get CrowdStrike onto an episode with DMC to talk about this tile.
Hmm.
What's important to me is, not only is CrowdStrike still developing, but it's showing that partners are still investing in Cloud Foundry. We're still seeing new tiles and products come out, new integrations come out. So that's an important part. But for the security minded, this is huge. But yeah, make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell because you are going to want to watch the CrowdStrike episode when we get that going.
All right. So last, not last, but there's a few more slides, but Avi Load Balancer, VMware Avi Load Balancer. So Opsman, there's integration now to talk to those Avi controllers and kind of register pool members within service engines or kind of virtual IPs for tPCF. So that top level load balancer, like a platform level or multi-platform level if you're using GSLB and that type of thing. There's going to be, there's integrations there, and I think there's going to be future work to even line up tPCF within the Avi GSLB. But don't quote me on that, type of thing. So yeah, just integration into here, and then looking forward to that just more streamlining the whole kind of stack, so to speak.
Well, everybody knows Broadcom's strategy here, right? You
Mm.
got three major public clouds. Broadcom, we are the fourth cloud, which is on-prem. And there are a lot of advantages to being on your own private cloud. One of the things that was, I won't say missing, but this helps kind of get us more public cloud like in the fact that, the platform engineers no longer have to statically deploy their Go routers within their Opsman tile. With this integration, if you're using this with VCF and you're using this with Avi Load Balancer, you can now, dynamically do those Go routers, much like we do in the public cloud if you're deploying to the public cloud. So this
Mhm.
integration is huge. And I know, we can't say a lot because there's things that are still in development, but we're going to see more integrations around Avi Load Balancer here and what it can do with the platform. So stay tuned for that. But just note, the fourth cloud is on-prem, and there's a lot of benefits to being on-prem, and a lot of our focus is going to be making sure that we can prove that to you.
And just complete side note: if you haven't used Avi before, it is a great scalable, software-defined load balancer. So,
Oh, I
yeah,
will absolutely. So,
yeah.
hey, for our core guys, we're going to give you a little call out here because, yeah, going back to when I was a customer, the two things that I used most were the TAS telemetry tile for helping plan deployment, security, everything else. The second one was the Avi load balancer in front of our foundations, and the reason for
Mhm.
that is Avi gives you an end to end tracing of what happens when it goes through that load balancer. We used to call it the mean time to innocence, right?
Mhm.
Developers would come in and say, "Hey, your platform's running slow and it's impacting my app." And Avi was able to give us the answer to the developers to say, "No, here's the timeline of when it comes through the load balancer, hits the Go routers to when it gets to your applications. Notice it's all pretty quick here. Your application's taking 3 minutes to respond.
Mhm.
Probably not the
Mhm.
platform space." So
Yeah.
Avi Load Balancer gives you that stuff in a very graphical form. It's very easy to set up. It's auto scaling if you need it to be. So cool product, not related to Cloud Foundry, but it is one of those things that helps Cloud Foundry work better. And I
Mhm.
think as we start seeing more of the integrations coming from the VCF and the Avi teams, we're we're going to really make private cloud the place to be.
Yes. All right. Next, we can't talk about. We got to talk about our data services too, right? Relational RDMS type of style. So
I'm
there's
actually excited
MySQL,
about this one. Yeah.
right? Postgres. So yeah, these are great. Um, so I mean, there's just been a lot of just like general like backup, point in time restore, streaming, kind of self help within these two tiles. So like Postgres is a little bit newer than the MySQL tile. And these screenshots are like ancient now. I don't even know what I took them sometime last year, I think. Um, so yeah, there's I think like the Postgres tile is like 1.2.2 is the latest release, and I'm not even sure what the MySQL tile is. So lots of just kind of I guess the point of the slide to me is that like don't forget about these services. There's been lots of work, kind of bringing them up, like you know targeting maybe features that maybe prevented some folks from using them from like enterprise HA type of stuff. But just lots of things happening across all the tiles, right? I remember too. I was using I think it was Redis or now Valky, right? The other day, and I remember back in the day, there's no from the Tanzu offering tile, there's no option to do like an HA Redis or Valky deployment. But I just noticed like, oh, just enable HA. I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. So like, there's a lot of great work happening in these tiles still. Don't forget about them, and even within the new Tanzu platform, you can have SKU and licensing. A lot of the data tiles and services are just included by default. So something to keep in mind.
Well, and I think you hit it on the head. You mentioned enterprise a couple points. So when we look at what our data offerings kind of originally were, they were on demand for, they were kind of bringing that microservices architecture to data for applications. What we're seeing with some of these updates that we're seeing, especially in the backups and the restore times, we're making things a lot easier. Backups aren't slowing people down. I think the main point here is we're making these more enterprise ready.
Mhm.
Database as a service or data as a service is something that a lot of people are concerned about. Cloud Foundry is a built-in data as a service here with our ability to use Bosch to deploy these on VMs, the self-help, the ability to upgrade all of your instances at one time. Cloud Foundry can be a data as a service. We've talked about it on this program before about doing data only foundations to help with some of those lead times that a lot of enterprises have with getting data services out there.
Mhm.
Instead of taking a month or two to get a MySQL or Postgres out there, you can do it in 15 to 20 minutes at most, and have all these enterprise features. Plus, have the ability to, when a new release comes out or a security patch comes out, update all your instances at one time. I think that this is more of a don't forget, and instead it's more of a kind of rethink how you might be
Mhm.
able to use data in this, because with these enterprise features coming in, we are absolutely putting data first here. And with Cloud Foundry as an orchestration, using Bosch, you really got a data as a service platform here if you choose to use that. And it can be
Mhm.
completely separate from your applications, or it can be combined with your applications. It really depends on your needs. So
Yeah.
don't forget, it's more like rethink. There's a lot of new stuff
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Nikki. So
Yep.
thank you. So yeah, yes. So and I still think this is a space, especially when we talk about private cloud. There's not a like this isn't necessarily a solved space, right? Like
Correct.
we've Bosch has had this ability to manage these and this whole marketplace construct of like a vending machine. Let's just say of like give me a Postgres database or MySQL or a Valky or Redis. Cluster like instance like that's just not like, there's not a lot of things that do that still in the 2025 era, right? So I'm really excited to see where this is going to go, and yeah, something to check out for sure.
Yeah, give me a chance to go on my rants here. So, much
Yes.
like AI, I get pretty excited about this because, there's stuff that we're not even showing on here. Using Gemfire,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that can be used on Tanzu platform as well. It really does make a really great data solution. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you couple that with a lot of the things that we announced, like in 6.0, with the ability to use small footprint and upgrade if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
This makes Cloud Foundry a really good solution where you can do things on the edge now with Cloud Foundry using small footprint. You can use, because when we're talking about data only, really all we're using is Cloud Foundry to report, update, and orchestrate the creation of these VMs. And I know there's a lot of talk out there, data in containers, but you got to look at that realistically. When you go to a public cloud and you're asking for one of these databases, they're generally not giving those to you in a container. They're giving them to you on VMs. VMs aren't going
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. They're still a great way to do this and to be
Yeah.
able to scale. Combine that with the fact when you look at these ideas, you're able to create plans, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
create plans for your databases. You have the marketplace where your developers can go out there and self-help to develop these. This is really an aspect of where, I think a lot of the people in the industry and a lot of people in the community really think of Cloud Foundry as, well, that's a place to run my workloads. Absolutely is. It's one of the best places to run your workloads, but we're forgetting about all these extra parts like our data. And I know we're going to talk about Valky here in a second as well,
Mhm.
but rethink about how you use Cloud Foundry. It's better for more than just running your workloads. It does a phenomenal job at that, but can do a phenomenal job of running and managing your data as well.
Yeah. Not to mention all the data things. Something too. I don't think we have called out on slides. Is that we have our Spring Cloud Gateway, so we have basically a
Yep.
built-in API gateway as well. That's enterprise grade, and our single sign-on service and things of that nature. So
Spring
really a
Cloud
lot.
Data Flow. We saw that
Yeah.
with Findsy, the mad developer, right? Using Spring
Yeah.
Cloud Data Flow to orchestrate data moving around places.
Mhm.
We've had Greg Green on to talk about Gemfire and things that it can do, along with RabbitMQ and Redis or Valky. And we'll talk about Redis and Valky here in a second. But
Mhm.
it's more than just databases. It's caching. It's API gateways. It's the ability to use data flow to orchestrate. A lot of movement in this space. I highly recommend that people in the ecosystem really start thinking about different ways to use Cloud Foundry, especially with the small footprint, because you can use small footprint to really cut the size of that down, especially if you're using it for data, because really at that point, you're only using it to manage the VMs, orchestrate and bring up and update those VMs. So you can cut a lot of infrastructure out with small footprint and really make this something that can be used geolocated, however you want to do it. There's a lot of architecture use cases that can be used for this.
Yep. Yeah, and then we'll do a quick shout out to RabbitMQ. A lot of new features happening there.
Mhm.
You kind of do your traditional like kind of queue, traditional queuing, or you get even down to event streaming as well within Rabbit. So Rabbit's a workhorse within the kind of like open source queuing community, so to speak, and just continued improvement here. Let's see what's else. Yeah, so our tile has made the migration from Redis to Valky. So like essentially, we're taking the new Valky fork. It's essentially streamlined within the developer flow and platform engineering flow. You kind of just upgrade to the next version, and now it's Valky. So we're ensuring that you can use the what we've all had, that kind of caching solution, uh, you know, within a let's just say cost effective manner. I guess another note too is that a lot of these tiles, when we were talking about comparing them to comparable other enterprise solutions, come in, I would say are much lower than the competition in terms of that nature. So that's just something to keep in mind too. You could have some cost savings events going on for sure.
And yeah, and let's just talk on the Redis to Valky migration. So,
Mhm.
with Redis's licensing changes, the whole point to move into Valky, which is a fork of Redis, right? It is the
Mhm.
fork after they made their change, is to keep that cost down for our customers. It is the same code, right? It is a
Yep.
fork of the code. Now, one thing I know a lot of customers who come to us, they're worried about, well, what does this migration look like? It's going to be a seamless migration. Really, what's going to happen is you're just going to see the tile name update to
Mhm.
Valky instead of Redis. There's not going to be any changes in the product slug if you're using Concourse and platform automation. It's still going to be the same product slug to go and get it. So really, the only thing that you're going to change or that you're going to see from a platform standpoint is all of a sudden your tile is now going to say Valky for Cloud Foundry rather than Redis. But the underlying product slug, the underlying way that you get it through automation, even the underlying code, there's no differences
Yep. It will give a quick shout out to cloud service brokers in general. So if you're using, Cloud Foundry on public cloud, we have these cloud service brokers that allow you to kind of extend the marketplace to easily deploy these a wide swath of public cloud services across your different hyperscalers of choice. So calling out specifically the CSB for AWS. They're rolling out zero downtime deployments. So then when you're deploying the new CSB or you're deploying tPCF, it's not impacting calls to the existing marketplace broker as well. So I think that's good to call out. Just so that if you have some kind of pipeline flowing or a developer requesting a new thing, it's not going to get blocked by a potential deployment on
there.
the back end. So a lot of things we covered here. I feel like we could go on for a few more hours, but I know we're
Well, I
already.
mean, I guess what's the underlying theme here, right? I mean, in closing, what we're talking about here, these are not just features, they're not just updates, they're actual solutions to problems that customers are bringing to us. So
Mhm.
this is the things that customers face every day. We're talking about the data, we're talking about the hub. We're trying to make the platform easier for people to look, to watch over. We're trying to make it more secure. Definitely want to make it ready for AI, which I think we've done an excellent job there. And of course, keep it the best platform for developers out there. This is the easiest way to get your code out to production. And we're still looking at all the ecosystem improvements for the customers that are asking for those. So, to the audience, if let us know what interests you on these things. Let us know if there's something you want us to go a little bit more into. I think both me and Nick would be happy to do that. Or are there scenarios that we're not talking about? Right? Reach out to us either on the Cloud Foundry LinkedIn, to Nick on his Twitter. Look for me on Bearded Bites on Twitter, or link out to us on LinkedIn. If there's something that you think is missing or something that's causing you problems, let us know so that we can get that in front of the platform teams, and start working on that. But just know we're still trying to keep this the best platform in the world for developers, and the best platform in the world for the guys that are managing those platforms, those platform engineers that keep it running for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish a
So,
lot of this stuff would have been out there when I was a customer. I can't imagine how much easier. Well, I can't imagine how
mhm.
much easier this would have made my job, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I guess that's maybe uh it's kind of like the one of the best parts about my job, because I get to see a lot of this stuff before it's coming out there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would have been great, like, a few years ago when I wasn't
Yep.
working here, that type of thing. So, having knowing that it's gonna really help a lot of customers, when you kind of see that first like mock, or like, hey, what if we did this? I'm like, yeah, you should totally do that, that type of thing.
Are,
So,
are we becoming the old guys? Is this our walk uphill both ways going to school moments, right? Well,
yeah.
I remember, when you had to get in and do a bunch of stuff with the Bosch command line to see
Yeah.
things, or, we didn't have it as easy as you kids do nowadays.
I remember it was still elastic runtime. Rah!
That's
Yeah,
right.
like, like,
That's
right.
right. I think we're
Exactly.
becoming the old men there, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
but that's
it
good.
works.
I
Yeah.
That means we're still improving. That means things are getting better. And hey, if we make things easy, people want to use it. Nobody wants to do things the hard way.
Hmm.
But I could make comments on that. But
Yeah.
nobody, some people want to do things the hard way. But if you just want to do things the easy way, you want an easy button. Cloud Foundry is your way to do it. Whether that's commercial side, or whether that's OSS, Cloud Foundry is the best way to get your stuff out
Indeed. Okay. I guess with that, I know we're coming up. I think we're close to c- uh, filling all the time we lost on our early
there. Yep.
technical difficulties. So, um, thanks for watching. For those of you watching, and appreciate you riding through our turbulent start. So, thanks for staying with us.
Well,
And,
and
and
real
it,
quick, Nick,
mhm,
just a reminder so you're doing the show alone next week. I'm going to be out, with other business,
mhm.
and keep an eye out on LinkedIn. You'll be able to see what some of that other business is. I'm excited to do more announcements on it, but
Yeah.
I'll be back the week after. But you're going to be alone next week, so
Yeah, I may find a phone a friend, or find someone to come help fill the air when I kind of deep dive into some of these AI examples that we're working through. So we'll figure that out. But yeah, in the
it's a
two
great
weeks,
thing
I
about
guess.
this platform. There's no lack of people that want to come on and talk about it. So, uh,
Exactly. Yeah,
yep,
our extended CF Weekly friends. I'm sure one of them will help out.
yep.
I'll have to go asking. Um, but yeah, and then yeah, we'll see you again in 2 weeks at your new gig, and we'll have to hear all about that, how that's going.
Yeah,
About that.
I'm excited. Can't wait.
Okay. All right. Well, without last but not least, don't forget to like and subscribe, and watch for notifications on our channel. We do post this in podcast format as well at cloudfounderweekly.com. You can digest this via all the normal podcast avenues, Spotify, all those things.
And the
Um,
podcast will be better because you won't have all the empty air and waiting for us
yep,
at the start of it. So,
I got
but
to
you
cut
won't get
them
to
out.
see our pretty faces.
Yes, this is true. So there's benefits, pros and cons of the
Right.
podcast, right? But if you're into the podcast scene, listening to while you're doing other things or whatever, check us out. But yeah, with that I guess we'll close with a CF bye, and then see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Everybody
All
have a
right.
good time.
All right. CF bye.
CF bye.